Welcome back to the AI Frontier, where we explore the edge of innovation and what it takes to lead there. Today's episode is all about what it means to become a frontier firm, those rare organizations that aren't just doubling in AI, but are redefining how business gets done because of it. And to help us unpack all that, I am joined by someone who lives and breathes this space, Samuel, an AI evangelist and business solution expert who's helping leaders turn AI from buzzword into bottom line impact. He's also actually the host of an amazing podcast, Mastering Productivity with the Experts. And he's also the author of a really incredible newsletter where he shares practical strategies, real world stories, and sharp insights to make AI simple, useful, and actionable. In this conversation, we'll explore what truly sets frontier firms apart from the rest, where Canadian organizations stand in their AI journey, and the early wins that build momentum, and the leadership mindset that sustains it. And what the next frontier might look like as AI continues to evolve, whether you're just starting to explore AI or you're ready to lead the charge. This episode is packed with clarity, candor, and a few paradigm shifts you won't want to miss. So with that, let's dive in. Samuel, thank you so much for being with us here today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited about this conversation.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in with the first question. When you think of a frontier firm, what does that mean in the context of AI and business transformation?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think we're hearing the term frontier firm everywhere nowadays, but it's not clear to everyone what a frontier firm really is. So when we talk about a frontier firm in AI and business transformation specifically, we're really talking about a shift in mindset. Like a frontier firm isn't just using AI to make things faster. It's basically redefining how work gets done from the ground up. Think about, and actually that's an example I got from Erin Chappell in one of my latest podcasts. She's our CVP of Commercial Solution Area. But she mentioned, think about the transition from on-prem to cloud that happens years ago. At first, organizations were just kind of lifting and shifting the different workloads. But the real transformation really happened when leaders realized that cloud wasn't just a place to host servers, it was a completely new operating model. So I think the same thing is happening now with AI. Like a frontier firm is one that will infuse AI across its entire strategy. It's not about, having a few AI projects on the side, like going through multiple proof of concept. It's really about putting AI at the center of how your organization think and executes. And this is exactly what we're doing at Microsoft, being the customer zero. Most organizations today are still applying AI to known problems. I think a frontier firm will go beyond that. They will use AI to reimagine the way they work. We'll start, with AI as an assistant with things like M365 Copilot, helping individuals become more productive. And most organizations today are still applying AI to known problems like automating reports, drafting emails, speeding up tasks. But the frontier firm will go beyond that.
Wow, I love that description. I think that's really sums it up. And like you said, having AI at the center will be very important. So thank you for that. How would you describe where most Canadian organizations are today in their AI journey? Are we still, do you think, in that exploration phase, or are we starting to see frontier level adoption?
So while preparing for this podcast, I stumbled upon a study from Statistic Canada. And what I realized is that Canadian organization, and honestly, organization in general, like just keep in mind that Copilot been released, not Copilot, but ChatGPT 3.5 has been released in November 2022, and Copilot has been released in May 2023. So it's not so long ago. So Canadian organizations and organizations in general are still figuring out. Based on this study I just mentioned, they found out that only about 12% of Canadian businesses use AI in the last year to deliver goods and services. So I think that number says it all. Like there's a huge potential, but adoption is still early. That said, we're starting to see few leaders that breaks away from the pack, like they're connecting AI to their data, their processes, and their customer experience. They're not on the experimental stage anymore. They're really changing how they work and how actually the work gets done. Those are the organizations that will define what it means, I think, to be a frontier firm in Canada. Not the one talking about AI, but really the ones that quietly using it to reshape how they operate every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, for those organizations, they're going to create a significant gap. If they're already
Mhm.
becoming the leaders, right? And they're already on that path of, okay, how do we reimagine work, like you mentioned? It's going to create a significant gap between those people that are actually frontier firms and those people that are just getting started. So,
I have to say, there's not a single week where a customer doesn't ask me, like, am I late to the game? And the truth is, we're at the beginning of this AI innovation curve. We're still at the beginning of it. Again, I'll repeat myself, but GPT 2.5, it's November 2022. It's like not even 3 years yet. So keep in mind that you still have time to have your say in the game and to define what it will be, what it mean to be a frontier firm in Canada.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It's still early days, so it's important to get started now with the process so that, like you said, there isn't that big gap, but we're still in early days. That totally makes sense. So, what do you think are the defining characteristics or behaviors that separate the frontier firms from those that are still experimenting with AI?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not really clear for a lot of people. So I think, in my personal opinion, that the difference between a company that experiment with AI and one that leads at the frontier comes down to two things: mindset and execution. Frontier firms will think AI first in everything they do. So every time they look at a problem, they will ask themselves, how could AI help us reimagine this from the ground up? Like I mentioned earlier, it's not applying AI to old problem. It's finding new way of going through our processes using AI. Frontier firm will build strong feedback loops between their teams, their customers, and their technology. It's not
Right.
only a story about technology; it's a story about people. They will treat governance as an accelerator instead of a bottleneck, and they will empower their employees to build, test, and learn without waiting for permission, all of that in a secure manner, right? You want to give them access to tool like Copilot, Copilot, which has enterprise data protection, so they can experiment and still making sure that all your data is fully secure. Again, Erin Chappell put it perfectly. I think that companies that are leading today see AI not as something to bolt on, but really as a core
Mm,
capability of the organization. They see Copilot not just as an app, but as a way of working. This is something I can see in my team as well, and in my work as well. And I think, lastly, that frontier firms will measure the ROI of time. Okay, not just cost cutting, production improvement. It's really, how do you save time and focus on freeing your people from low value tasks so they can spend more time on what matters, like for sales, customer relationship, creative work, or strategic thinking. So that combination of AI first thinking, empowering your team, and culture that values time is, I think, what sets Frontier Firm apart.
yeah, I absolutely love that. Like that last piece is so true, like you said, it really is about people. And I think if we do value time, right, we'll be able to help them focus on things that truly matter, things that will make them feel like they're, making an impact, not just like the day to day things that might not have a significant impact on the business or even, their passion. So I like that. I like that piece a lot. Are there any standout examples of Canadian organizations that are leading at the frontier? What would you say others can learn from them?
So there's a lot of examples. Obviously, a lot of are available on our customer story website, on the Microsoft website. But I worked a lot with public sector, and while a lot of people might say that public sector is not as innovative as private sector, I tend to disagree. We've got some incredible example in Canada. Organizations that aren't just experimenting with AI, but are using it to completely reshape how they operate. And a good example of that is the city of Kelowna, for instance. They're one of the most, I think, forward-thinking municipalities in the country. There's Burlington as well that did something similar. They used to face long delay in their building permit process, which down the line was affecting housing development across the whole region. So instead of simply trying to make the old process a bit faster, they reimagine the whole experience. They use Microsoft Azure OpenAI and they use Power Platform. And today, citizens can interact directly with a conversational AI assistant that will walk
Nice.
them through bylaws. It will help them determine permit eligibility for the specific address. It will even answer detailed questions that used to require multiple call or in-person visits. So
Wow.
the result is that certain permit approval now happens in like days instead of months. So I think it's really impressive. Honestly, they didn't even stop there. Like they expanded the same AI foundation across other services like property taxes, landfills, snow removal, updates, and even recreation programs. Basically, down the line, they're freeing staff from repetitive inquiries so they can focus on more complex, high value work. So I think it's really a perfect example of what a frontier mindset look like.
I love that. I honestly, anytime I hear customer stories where they've done some significant changes, and are having an impact on the citizens, it makes me really excited to see results. And so that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that with us. So for leaders who want to start moving toward that frontier, what is the best first step to take? Because like you said, a lot of people think, oh, maybe it's too late or whatever. What would be your advice to them as to that first step to take?
So one word. If the best way to start right now is super simple, just start. Like I'm seeing so many organizations now that's taking their time with good reason to look at the governance, look at the security, look at adoption, but are not starting. Like there's a way of starting while making sure your governance is right, while making sure your security layer is right. But you need to start because the more you're waiting, the more you'll be late to the game at some point. And you won't learn AI by reading about it, like a bit, yes, but you really will learn by using it. You will
Brilliant.
learn by getting your people using it and getting feedback on it and finding new ways, new creative way of using AI. That's exactly how we do basically at Microsoft. We call it being a customer zero. We deploy our own tools internally first, and we learn from that. We learn what work, what doesn't, and how to make those tools better before they reach customers. So for most organizations, the path to becoming a frontier firm will happens and give everyone a secure AI companions like tools like M365 Copilot or Copilot Chat. I think it's the perfect entry point because first, it's fully secure. For those who haven't heard about it, M365 Copilot and Copilot Chat has enterprise data protection, which guarantee you that we won't train any model on your data. It's encrypted at rest. It will stay in the geographical region of your tenant. So it's fully protected. By the way, I know a lot of people are asking themselves, does Copilot has access to information that a user shouldn't have access to? No, Copilot never ever have more access than the user using it. Okay, so that's one point. So that's a good entry point to start and letting your people experiment with AI. Then the second stage will be to build AI agents that will tackle specific processes. And once people are comfortable, start building agents to solve these real problems. They'll be able to do things like automating follow-ups, summarizing meetings, generating insights. I can tell you I have a bunch of agents doing a bunch of different stuff. Preparing for one of my podcasts, writing a script for a video, doing research for a customer, and sending to email. I have a bunch of agents doing different things. So it's very powerful. So that's the second stage, I think. And the third stage is really an AI-led workflow. There's this concept of agent boss where in the future, you'll become the boss of multiple agents that will work for you and will tackle the different processes. And over time, you'll have systems where human and AI will really work tightly together, agents handling the repetitive task and people focusing on creativity, relationship, and strategy. Through all of this, I think having an AI center of excellence is critical if you want to get started with AI. So the center of excellence is really where you'll align governance, training, and priorities. And it's how you will scale responsibly and make sure you're learning as a company, not just as an individual. For those who don't know, a COE, so AI Center of Excellence, is a small cross-functional team that sets the visions, will define the guardrails, and will help people move in the same direction. It's not there like to slow things down or own every project that you might have, but its job is really to make sure that every team can innovate confidently, having access to the right data practices in a secure way, and put guidance in place for everyone to follow. If you want more information about the AI COE, we have a bunch of documentation on our Microsoft Learn website.
Wow. Samuel, so many gold nuggets there. So many things on how to get started. I really love, that you said just take the first step. Just get started because
Yeah.
reading and actually practicing and getting that feedback is not the same. And I've seen that in my own journey with AI. There's been times where I'm like, oh, that's a really cool tool, whatever. But when I actually put it into practice and start thinking of you like personal use cases, that's when I actually really see the value. So definitely a fantastic tip for everybody trying to get started. And then, another thing that you said was the Copilot chat piece. So important. A lot of people think I have to invest a significant amount, so I don't even want to start entertaining the idea. So then they don't. Or some people are like, we want to start, but we want to make sure it's secure. So, we have a long journey still to go. But with Copilot Chat, both those problems are solved. It's secure. They're not going to train, like you said, Microsoft's not going to train their models using your data. So from that perspective, it's secure and then it's free to get started. So you can actually get your organization started without having to make a significant investment while still knowing that it's going to be secure. So thank you so much for sharing that. Fantastic. What are a few early wins that organizations prove value and build confidence internally, do you think?
So again, it goes to like just start. Okay, so you don't need a massive AI strategy to see impact. Like some of the biggest win I've seen come from the smallest change. I have a lot of good example, but automating repetitive tasks like summarizing information faster or reducing time searching document or writing report using a tool like Copilot Researcher, for instance, or Copilot Analyst to help you do some research, preparing for, I don't know, a meeting, presentation, a podcast. uh is a quick win. I did a podcast with one of my pleased SCME and C Canada lead. His name is Ehsan Youssef. He will be on my podcast. It will probably be released the time this podcast is released. But he shared a perfect example. One of our team member built a small agent that is taking a meeting transcript, pull in all the relevant resources based on the questions that the customer might have, and will draft a customer follow-up emails in minutes. So if you put yourself in the shoes of a seller at Microsoft, a lot of our conversation with customers is about obviously our product and the features that might be part of our product. So we're having email exchanges, we have conversation that are recorded through Microsoft Team where we're having this conversation with the customers on how the product might fit their processes. And it takes a lot of time going through all of this and then finding the right documentation online on Microsoft Learn and going back to the customer. So now with AI, we can do this in a matter of minutes. So what used to take like in half an hour now takes 5 minutes. Like think about it. You have to go through all the notes from the meeting, do a search manually, make sure it answer the questions, and then craft an email. Now it all can be done in one simple step using an agent. And the only step that you have left is to validate that the information is corroborating what you were looking for. So multiply this simple use case across the sales team. And honestly, you just like unlock hours of extra time every week. And
Yeah.
I think that's the point. Time is the new currency. Every minute that you save from admin work is a minute that you gain from customer engagement or strategic thinking or creative work. So that's how you build confidence internally. Once I think people experience the benefit personally, that's where they become advocates. So again, a quick win is just start and give your team access to out of the box tool. You don't have to boil the ocean, right? Or build agents, but you don't have to build complex agents.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree. And I'm seeing that, at Insight, for example, right? Like, different sellers are using AI, getting those early wins, building that confidence, and they want more, right? And that's what we want to see is users wanting to use it more, figuring out what other use cases they can use AI for. And again, it just multiplies, that impact multiplies and it's contagious.
Yeah.
So 100%. So, how can executives create a culture where AI is seen as a growth enabler rather than a disruptor, in your opinion?
So I mentioned it earlier. I think AI transformation isn't about technology, it's about people. It's a cultural shift. The biggest mistake I've seen leaders make is treating it as an IT project. It's not. actually Gen AI. Like, let's be clear. You need to make it safe for people to experiment. You need to celebrate early wins. You need to be transparent about what AI means for your business and your employees. Erin Chappell said something I really love. I posted about it on LinkedIn as well. Is governance isn't a bottleneck; it's a launch pad. So good governance will give you the confidence to move faster because you know you're doing it responsibly. So that's another point as well. So people, governance, and I'll say trust comes from education. So the more your people understand how AI works, what I mean by that, its limits, its risks, and its strengths. Not only the amazing thing it can do, but what's the limitation? Where should you use AI? Where you shouldn't use AI? What are the risks around AI? What's the risk if you're inputting sensitive information in a tool like ChatGPT or Grok or whatever? And the more they'll know about it, the more comfortable they become using it. I'm delivering a lot of prompt masterclass engagement with my customer where I'm just teaching them the basic of a good prompt. Because the thing is, if you don't know how to use the tool, you'll don't get the expected result and you might give up. And that's not what
Right.
we want. So education for me is top of mind. And carving out dedicated time for learning for your team is really important. And you can expect people to just build new habits without giving them the space to do it. I think the whole field, we're expecting a faster adoption, but we kind of forgot along the way the human factor. Like people have their habit and you need to integrate AI into these habits. So I think ultimately leadership in the age of AI is about balance. So top-down sponsorship, because you really want to set the expectations and the vision, and bottom-up creativity to bring it to life. So you want your people to be able to experiment and get enthusiastic about the tool and sharing this enthusiasm with the whole organization. So it's really two-stage, top-down and bottom-up.
Wow, I love that. I'm sure the listeners will love that too. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Samuel. Well, as AI continues to evolve, what does the next frontier look like for Canadian businesses?
That's a good question. I think, like I mentioned earlier, the next frontier won't be about chasing the brightest new toy. It's really about embedding AI in the way you operate, the way you compete, the way you grow here at home, so in Canada. But again, I mentioned it, the gap is real. Based on the survey I mentioned earlier, the survey from Statistic Canada, only 12.2% of Canadian businesses have reported using AI to deliver goods or services in the past year. So that means that if you move from exploration to execution right now, you will be ahead. It's more about, I don't want to say you should go with the hype. I'm saying you should build a strategy around it. So it's not about strategy, it's about hype. It's about strategy, it's not about hype. So the business that succeed, again, will ask, what does AI enable us to do differently in Canada? And not just like, wow, what tool can we try next? Okay, it's really, how can I reinvent my processes? So focus on your core domain to do so. Like whether it's, manufacturing in Ontario or clean tech in Alberta or services in Quebec, like use your data, use your market insight, and apply AI to the areas where you already have strength. Like build your culture, build the skills locally. Canadian firms really need to train their people, shift mindset, and build workflows where AI is a teammate. Again, it's not just about hiring machine learning experts, it's about empowering your workforce. In the same survey I mentioned, in Q2 2025, only 38% of Canadian businesses that use AI, so this 12% of businesses using AI, only 38% of them had trained their current staff to use it.
Wow.
It's not enough to be honest. So I'll say in short, if you're operating in Canada and you're really serious about AI, this is really your moment. We're at the beginning of the curve. You can be a frontier firm at home. Focus on alignment, focus on execution, and focus on culture. And you'll not just keep up, you'll basically lead.
Honestly, that's really fantastic. One of the things that I keeps kind of playing in my head over and over is that word that you've mentioned a couple times is reimagine. Going through that shift in mindset, right? Reimagining what everything is going to look like. That's going to be the beginning of frontier firms being successful or leading organizations to becoming frontier firms. Thanks again, Samuel, for sharing what it really takes to become a frontier firm. If you're ready to move from exploration to transformation, this episode hopefully gave you the mindset, the momentum, and the first steps to get started. Now, you can find more of Samuel's amazing insights in his podcast and newsletter, Mastering Productivity with the Experts. It's definitely worth a subscribe. Until next time, keep pushing the edge. The frontier is closer than you think. Thanks, Samuel.
Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day.